In yesterday's video, we saw another glimpse into Kreia's mind concerning love and relationships in general. As I was gathering footage for that video, I found some other interesting things that I want to talk a little bit about. If you take the quest from Lutra, find his wife in the refugee sector and return to him without helping her get to him, you are presented with 3 options to end the mission. You'd want to do this if you're trying to gain prestige with the exchange. If you lie to him, telling him that his wife is dead, he says this.
What? I always feared that was what happened. At least now I know.
If you persuade him that there's no hope and that he should take the job he was offered by the exchange, he says this.
I think you're right. Without her, there's nowhere I really have left to go, or even want to go.
And no matter which one you pick, he always follows up by saying this.
It's strange you came by when you did. I was right at the edge of deciding whether to give up, turning it over in my mind, and suddenly, you walked through the door and gave me the answer I needed to hear.
Kreia then chimes in.
I'll remember that. Thanks again, stranger.
That was well executed. You used his own doubt to foster trust and reliance. Perhaps you're learning much in the flow of Nar Shaddaa. Do not mistake my tone. I was not faulting your choice. Far from it, I respect it. There are many who never learn such strength.
This of course mirrors another moment on Nar Shaddaa, when you convince the sick man to commit suicide by playing up his fear of infecting the entire refugee sector.
I suppose I will die soon, anyway.
Well executed. You have created an echo, something that will travel for some time. You are learning much.
It may help us understand what exactly she's respecting. I don't think it's the reasoning behind the action, but it may be the realization of that ability. Sure, you can say that the exile's actions are reprehensible, I would agree. But you have to admit that it is awfully clever. You use someone's own emotions to turn things around in your favor and be granted power you didn't already have. Kreia does indeed care about the reasoning behind your actions. Although I haven't quite figured out the sick man scene completely, currently the exile is trying to get the notice of the exchange, and this is one way to help things along.
This may be an opportunity for us. If we can make life miserable enough for the refugees, they will capitulate. The exchange will be a valuable ally to us. Then you will come to realize its wisdom.
Now there's a third option here, and it's to use the force to persuade the man into giving up his search and work for the exchange. The reason I didn't mention it before is because you will always fail to force persuade him if you try.
What? What? No, there still may be a chance of finding her, isn't there? My head feels strange.
The exile says that the reason it failed is because she figures that the memory of his wife is still too strong and overpowers the force ability. This is something that Kreia touches upon on Onderon. While there's also another example of this that's perhaps a bit more directly connected to what Kreia says, a sense of loyalty.
I don't think your business is any concern of mine.
Minds are often weakened when forced to follow familiar patterns, but sometimes those patterns work against you when backed by loyalty or duty. Use your power carefully.
I will let you... No, you're not permitted past this point.
Loyalty can prove an effective wall to your talents, but there may be a way to undermine it if one looks for it.
The Onderonian Skybridge Guard's loyalty is strong enough to fight off both forms of persuasion. But when it comes to Lutra, the memory of his wife is strong enough to fight off the force, but not the exile's own power of persuasion. With the Onderonian Skybridge Guard, Kreia said that you can find ways around things like loyalty to undermine it. In the case of Lutra, his doubt is that way. A force persuade is more like attempting to force open a locked door. You tell people what you want them to do and have them do it. But with your own powers of persuasion, you can use elements of what you've learned and/or your surroundings.
Thanks again, stranger.
That was well executed. You used his own doubt to foster trust and reliance.
A force persuade has no room for such flexibility, no room to use specific emotions and information. Which is why in many cases, the power that can come from within can, in a way, be more powerful than the Force itself. Another thing I wanted to bring up was this. Listen to Kreia's tone of voice in this scene.
If you care for them, then dispense with pity and sacrifice, and recognize the value in letting them fight their own battles. And when they triumph, they will be even stronger for the victory.
There are other moments in the game that prompts her to say these lines as well, like when you help the Zerka employee escape the underground facility, or when you help the man who owes money to the exchange. Comparing Kreia's tone of voice between then and now and you'll hear an obvious difference.
If you care for them, then dispense with pity and sacrifice, and recognize the value in letting them fight their own battles. And when they triumph, they will be even stronger for the victory. If you care for others, then dispense with pity and sacrifice, and recognize the value in letting them fight their own battles. And when they triumph, they will be even stronger for the victory. It is those internal struggles when they are fought and won that yield the strongest rewards. You took that battle from him, cheapened it. It is the internal struggles, when fought and won on their own, that yield the strongest rewards. You stole that struggle from them, cheapened it. Then your allies are your weakness, and if they die, you die with them. And where once the Sith had but one target, now there are many, and you frustrate my attempts to protect you. Then your allies are your weakness, and if they die, you die with them. And because of that, where once the Sith had but one target, now there are many, and you frustrate my attempts to protect you. I grow weary of this. Perhaps time will allow my words to take root, if your common sense will not permit it. Oh, I grow weary of this. Perhaps time will allow my words to take root, if your common sense will not permit it.
Another difference is the fact that in those other moments, you lose influence with Kreia, but with Lutra and his wife, you don't. It's almost as if Kreia does feel the need to teach you this lesson, but she's not particularly upset by your actions. Maybe she figures that this scenario isn't exactly as big a deal as the other situations, or maybe she does have a soft spot for people's relationships, maybe even specifically for romantic ones.
It would have been better had he found her on his own. If he truly loved her, truly, he would have entered the refugee sector on his own, damn the exchange, damn everything in his path, and taken her. You have made their union easier, not better.
I know what you may be thinking. She says that you made their union easier, but not better. She isn't saying that the union itself is wrong. How could she? She's not against people having relations with one another. Only a fool would advocate for something like that. There's no avoiding it, for one. Kreia has a relationship with the exile. It's not a romantic one. It's not even one of friendship, if you ask her. It's a teacher and student relationship, and perhaps exclusive to a dark side playthrough, one of master and apprentice.
Stay here and die, apprentice.
All she's saying is that if Lutra had been the one to somehow find and free his wife, that would have made their union stronger. They would have loved each other more having conquered this challenge together. I think that, at least for many people, she's right. Couples who overcome hard times together tend to have their bonds strengthened. And the simple idea of them saving each other's lives is enough to make them value each other more. But I'm single, so what do I know? Still, that's why the Die Hard film series is kinda weird when I think about it. John McClane saved his wife twice and they still got divorced. It could be that Holly just didn't really like John at all that much, and the only reason they stayed together for so long was because John saved her life twice. A few final things. Take a look at this dialogue choice screen. You get this after you free Lutra's wife and return to him. The first two options end the quest and has Kreia lecture you about their union. But if you pick the final one that says, "I'm just glad I was there for you, just be sure to do the same if you encounter another in need," if you pick that one, Kreia's dialogue is the same as when you lie to Lutra that his wife is dead, or persuade him to work for the exchange.
Will do. Thanks again, stranger.
That was well executed. You used his own doubt to foster trust and reliance. Perhaps you're learning much in the flow of Nar Shaddaa.
Either Kreia is even more complicated than we thought, or this is an error in the game. Although this option is an attempt to make Lutra actually do something. You're telling him to follow your example and help others when he can. It should be noted that Kreia isn't completely against helping people. After all, she is helping the exile. Then again, she did have certain ulterior motives. And it could be argued that perhaps everyone does, in one form or another. Either way, I'm gonna go ahead and lean on the side of this being a game mistake. Lastly, it was brought to my attention by Dot. Yes, we've established on the live stream that henceforth, his name is Dot. Not Rika, or that guy, or Anonymous, or that one guy that made that Kreia's philosophy video. His name is Dot, like Dot Matrix, from Reboot. Except, as far as I know, without a diner, and not nearly as attractive. I've been single for a long time now, people. What do you want from me? Anyway, Dot told me that certain party members also react to the conversation with Kreia about relationships and it being a potential weakness. I wasn't in a position to test everyone, unfortunately, but here are the ones I was able to find.
The Mandalorian Wars prove such things. In only one Jedi did I see valor.
Her nature tells of such things. To any who care to listen.
Hey, thanks.